Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Storky Farmstead. So, hey guys, my name is Samantha. I'm here to do this with you in super fast time. All right. Still really under the weather. Excuse me. Coughing up some pretty nasty information up out of my body. But that's okay because regardless of how I feel, my brain doesn't go to bed. My brain doesn't take sick days, folks. So I'm productive whether I'm sick or I'm not. So I can't stay in bed any longer. A lot of you are asking questions about what is the Deagel report, Sam. So let's get this done. First off, warning, warning, warning. You have now been officially warned. Across America tomorrow, there are uprisings scheduled in just about every state. Now, Federal Bureau of Investigation, CIA, and ICE, I'm going to tag you in this video, and I hope that you do what our federal dollars pay you to do. Be at these uprisings and start arresting people and deporting them from our country, because that is what we pay you to do. As you come on, please hit the like button, drop over in comments, tell me who you are and where you're watching from. The video I'm fixing to show you comes from another homesteader, sister homesteader by the name of Tommy Bites TV Homestead. You can go watch the entirety there.
Maybe one at 11 and 4 o'clock. So in Arizona, they will be having a protest at the state capitol at noon. California, they will be having a protest at the state capitol building at noon. Colorado, state capitol building at noon. Florida, Tampa City Hall at 3. Georgia, Centennial Park at 2. Idaho, state capitol steps at 11. Illinois, state capitol building at noon. Indiana, state capitol building at noon. Iowa, state capitol at noon. Kansas, state capitol building at 4. And I'm not done. I have more states that I'm going to give you as well. Also, in some of these clips, you will be seeing they're going to be talking about what's happening at the borders and what the other country is planning to do. So in Kentucky, they're protesting at the state capitol building at noon. Massachusetts State House at noon. Michigan State Capitol at noon. Minnesota, St. Paul Technical College at noon. Mississippi State Capitol at noon. Missouri State Capitol building at noon. And this is all on February 5th. That one. Montana State Capitol at noon. Nebraska State Capitol at noon. New Hampshire State House at noon. New Jersey State House at noon. New York Capitol building at noon. And New York City Hall at 2 p.m. And I'm letting you know the time and all the places and stuff, not so you can go protest, but so that you can be aware and stay away from that area if you live near these places. In North Carolina, at the state capitol building at noon. I'm going to say that again. North Carolina, the state capitol building at noon. Ohio, State House at noon in Willard Park at 4 p.m. Oklahoma, state capitol at noon. Oregon, state capitol building at noon. Pennsylvania, state capitol complex at 11 a.m. And then another one at William S. Moorhead Federal Building in Pittsburgh at 11 a.m. And Philadelphia City Hall at noon. In South Dakota, downtown Federal Courthouse at 3 p.m. Tennessee State Capitol at 1:30 p.m. Texas State Capitol at 11 a.m. and San Jacinto Plaza at 4 p.m. Vermont State Capitol at noon. Virginia Bell Tower at 12:30 p.m. Washington Tyvola Fountain North Lawn at 2:30 p.m. Washington, D.C. Capitol Building at 11 a.m. Wisconsin State Capitol at 11 a.m. Wyoming Capitol at 2 p.m. Y'all, all of this is going down because of the orders that were put in place. And so in some of these videos, you're going to see people being deported. You're going to see people actually fleeing the U.S. and trying to enter into Canada illegally. At this point,
now,
you are in the United States of America.
The video she's using there is a little older. It was actually from last year with some migrants, illegal aliens that were going through the U.S. and into Canada. Now, she said that was for February 5th. Today is February 5th, and she just put this video out like 4 hours ago. So I'm not sure if she means I'm giving you the information on February 5th and these are scheduled for later. I don't know. I've not been looking around very much the last 3 days. I've been too sick. Do your own research. Be aware. There are protests scheduled everywhere. Why? Because here's some of the excuses that I've heard. You stole the land from us, so we're going to take it back. It was ours first. Illegals run this country. It's ridiculous what I'm hearing. All I can tell you guys is really learn American history. We paid a lot of money for the land in this country. We signed treaties, we fought wars, and we purchased this land from many countries. Many countries. I learned that in Louisiana Purchase history. So, maybe it's a shame that we don't teach these kids real history anymore. But the Louisiana Purchase was the biggest piece. We were huge once, but now we're just a little teeny tiny boot disappearing into the Gulf. So that's all I'm going to say. I'm super sick. I don't like dealing with people's nonsense. Let's get to the real business. Good morning, Devon Devin from over there in the great United Kingdom, which we bought some of the United States from you guys, some from Spain, some from Portugal, some from India, some from Indian tribes, and some from Mexico. It's amazing. People don't know that. But, okay. And also let me say this, guys. I have great, solid information. And there seems to be a trend that occasionally I'll say one thing in a video and people run off with their feelings hurt. Let me explain something to you. If I'm willing to say it boldly without fear, it ought to tell you something. Instead of getting offended, you should stop and say, wow, out of all the content creators in the world, this lady's just saying it like it is. Maybe it's because she actually cares. Oh, you're welcome, Wyatt. I try, my friend. All right, let's talk about what the Deagel report is. Since I keep reposting it in community and only 25,000 people have seen it, I figured through somebody's comment asking me to do another video on it, maybe I would show you guys what it is. The Deagel or Deagel report, depending on how you want to say it, was a report that originally came out in 2017 by the Deagel Company. Now, the Deagel Company actually worked with the military. They were a defense contract. They did statistical analysis. Basically, the, pick a group, DOD would call them and say, hey, we want to bomb this country. What does the statistical analysis look like if we do that? What is the fallout? Is it going to be successful? They'd feed all this information into their giant computers and a report comes out. Okay? That's what they do. Statistical analysis. They use it all the time. That's how they figure out whether or not they're going to give you insurance on your property. This is what the people that wrote the Deagel report, and yes, I will put all this in description. They wrote this long summary right here about their findings. So let me read this to you first so you have some understanding, and then I'll tell you what it says. There have been many questions about the country's forecast, especially the one focusing on the United States of America, USA. They won't be answered one by one, but below you can find some explanation, thoughts, and reflections. We're going to keep this as short as possible. The majority of the economic and demographic data used in the making of the forecast is widely available by institutions such as CIA, IMF, UN, USG, etc. You can see the most relevant data at every single country's page. There is a tiny part of data coming from a variety of shadow sources, such as internet gurus, unsigned reports, other like things that they weren't supposed to see, and others. But all of the sources are from the internet and are a public domain for at least a minority. For example, several years ago, Deagel, the Chinese ratings agency, published a report analyzing the physical economy of the states, comparing it with those of China, Germany, and Japan. The conclusion was that the US GPD was something between 5 to 10 trillion instead of 15 trillion as officially reported by the USG. We assume that the official data, especially economic, released by governments, is faked, cooked, or distorted in some degree. Historically, it is well known that the former Soviet Union was making up fake statistics years before its collapse. This is important. You really need to hear me. Western as well as other countries are making up their numbers today to conceal their real state of affairs. We are sure that many people out there find government statistics in their countries that, by their own personal experience, are hard to believe or are so optimistic that they may not even belong to that country. Despite the numeric data quantity, there is a quality model which has not a direct translation into numeric data. The 2014 strain of Ebola has a death rate of 50 to 60%. But try to imagine what would happen if there was a pandemic of Ebola with hundreds of thousands or millions infected with the virus. So far, the few cases of Ebola-infected people have enjoyed intensive health care with antiviral and breathing assistance, but above all, with abundant human support by physicians and nurses. In a pandemic scenario, that kind of health care won't be available for the overwhelming number of infected, leading to a dramatic increase in the death rate due to the lack of proper health care. The quality factor is that the death rate could increase to 80 to 90% in a pandemic scenario from the stated 50 to 60%. The figure is not important. What is relevant is the fact that the scenario can evolve beyond the initial conditions from a 50% death toll to a 90% death toll. By the way, no pandemic or nuclear war is included in this forecast. So let me repeat that. There is no pandemic or nuclear information fed into the computer to get this information we're fixing to read to you. It comes from economic, which ought to scare the bejesus out of you guys, because I've been screaming it from the rooftops. America's fixing to have a Great Depression. You better learn to plant those gardens. I have so many playlists on planting gardens, making your own food, storing your own food, canning your own food. Nobody watches them. It's not interesting. It's okay. You're going to watch them eventually. But let me get back to their paper. All right, where was I? Oh, by the way, no pandemic or nuclear war is included in the forecast. The key element to understand the process that the USA will enter in the upcoming decade is migration. Is migration. Is migration. Been saying that too. In the past, especially in the 20th century, the key factor that allowed the USA to rise to its colossus status was immigration, with the benefits of a demographic expansion supporting the credit expansion and the brain drain from the rest of the world benefiting the states. The collapse of the Western financial system will wipe out the standard of living of its population while ending Ponzi schemes such as the stock exchange and pension funds. The population will be hit so badly by a full array of bubbles and Ponzi schemes that the migration engine will start to work in reverse, accelerating itself to a ripple effect, thus leading to the demise of the states. The unseen situation for the states will develop itself in a cascade pattern with unprecedented and devastating effects for the economy. Jobs offshoring will surely end, with many American corporations relocating overseas, thus becoming foreign corporations. I introduced you to that yesterday in my life. Or was it this morning? It might have been this morning. I introduced you guys to that concept. Jobs offshoring will surely end, with many American corporations relocating overseas, thus becoming foreign corporations. We will see a significant part of the American population migrating to Latin America and Asia, while migration to Europe, suffering a similar illness, won't be relevant. So there won't be any migrating to Europe because it'll be crashing along with the United States. Nevertheless, the death toll will be horrible. Take into account that the Soviet Union's population was poorer than the Americans nowadays, or even then. The ex-Soviets suffered during the following struggle in the 1990s with a significant death toll and the loss of national pride. Might we say twice the pride, double the fall? Nope. The American standard of living is one of the highest, far more than double of the Soviets, while having added a service economy that will be gone along with the financial system. When pensioners see their retirement disappear in front of their eyes and there are no servicing jobs, you can imagine what's going to happen next. Can you? Do you guys actually understand what I'm trying to say to you? Maybe you don't. When pensioners see their retirement disappear in front of their eyes and there are no servicing jobs, you can imagine what's going to happen next. At least younger people can migrate. Never in human history were so many elders among the population. In past centuries, people were lucky to get to their 30s or 40s. The American downfall is set to be far worse than the Soviet Union's one, a confluence of crisis with a devastating result. The demographic crisis in the former Soviet Union countries has extended for 2 decades. If we accept that it ended early in the decade 2010s, the demographic crisis will hit the world in the near future and is projected to last between 3 and 8 decades, more or less, depending on technological breakthrough and environmental issues. The aftermath is more likely a frozen picture, with the population number staying the same for a very, very long time. The country's forecast population numbers do reflect birth deaths but also migratory movement. Many countries are going to increase their gross population due to migration, while their main native population will shrink. Over the past 2,000 years, we have witnessed the Western civilization built around the Mediterranean Sea shifting to Northern Europe, and then by the 20th century, shifting to an Atlantic axis to finally get centered into the States in the past 30 years. The next move we will see, the civilization being centered in Asia with Russia and China on top. Historically, a change in the economic paradigm has resulted in a death toll that is rarely highlighted by mainstream historians. When the transition from rural areas to large cities happened in Europe, many people unable to accept the new paradigms themselves. They blanked themselves by a psychological factor. This is not mainstream, but it is true. A new crisis joins old, well-known patterns with new ones. Sorry to disappoint many of you with our forecast. It's getting worse and worse every year since the beginning of the pre-crisis in 2007. Who was president in 2007? It was George W. Bush Jr. He bailed everybody out. Remember that? And then it was just Democrat after Democrat. Yeah, it's been going on since 2007. Our country has financially crashed hard since 27. It's catching up with us, folks. It is already said that this website is nonprofit, built on spare time, and we provide our information and services as is, without further explanations and or guarantees. We are not a death or satanic cult or arms dealers or some other BS floating around the internet on this topic. Take into account that the forecast is nothing more than a model, whether flawed or correct. So, what does it say? It says in 2025, the United States will go from a population of 326 million people to 99 million people. 326 million people to 99 million people. Don't go anywhere. Don't get bored. It's time for people to stop letting their minds float and make yourself focus, because this is important. There is something else called the Adam and Eve story that I brought up to you guys. Joe Rogan broke this story a couple of years ago. It's an unclassified document from the CIA. It was about pole shifts. It was about how the pole shifts are going to flip. And it was for this time period. Okay. It talks about how poles shift back and forth every so many thousands of years. It's got some great information. I'm going to, of course, link it in. You guys need to read up on this. But it's not just the Deagel report expecting something. So you've got the Adam and Eve project that the CIA declassified. They didn't want to. They did not want to. Then you've got the Deagel report, but you've also got something called Global Trends 2025 put out by the UN and the World Economic Forum. Now, this one was actually funded. Of course it was. It's funded by you guys. Because the U.S. government posted this one through the NIC. And it goes on to talk about how that by 2030 to 2050, the Hispanic population is going to boom to 67%. But the Asian population, the Black population, and the white population is going to decrease drastically. But they don't really tell you how that's going to happen. I'll link all these in. Do your own research. Use your own brain. Yeah, God's in control. He sure is. And he gives people free will. Tell the mother of the teenagers that were killed by a drunk driver, God is in control and she might smack you in your mouth. And I'm not being ugly. And you can stop watching me if that's offensive to you, because nobody loves Jesus quite like me, guys. I am diehard Jesus fan. But I think people tend to knee jerk when somebody provides you evidence like this that says, look, guys, the CIA, the NIC, all these people know something's coming. They're not telling you. In fact, they're doing so much more than not telling you. They're hiding it. If you type in Adam and Eve, the first thing that pops up is a conspiracy theory. See it? Conspiracy theory. Same thing with the Deagel report. They fact checked it. So when I hear people say God is in control, my response is always God allows free will. So he's going to let the murderer murder. He's going to let you commit your sin. And when somebody is sinning, their sin affects everybody in their bubble. Okay? Now, I understand that that is super hard for people to understand sometimes, but we serve a God of love, a God of restoration, a God of hope, a God of second chances. Satan kills, steals, and destroys. This is the time to get into your Bibles and truly, truly understand them. Stop knee jerking when somebody says, guys, something bad is coming. Because guess what? This country has gone through a civil war, a revolutionary war, a French and Indian war, World War I, World War II. It has had the Spanish flu deaths. It went through, not only that, I could just keep going. There's been horrific things that have happened to Christians living in America for the past 270 something years, guys. Yes, God is in control to some extent, but he allows us to live our lives as we choose. So if that crazy scientist pushes the button and a nuclear bomb goes off, that's not on God, that's on man. No, it's not a coincidence that the Deagel report has extreme decreases in population in countries that are Christian. Not at all. Not at all. Do I believe this is all part of Satan's big overall scheme? Yeah. Yeah, I do. I absolutely do think. But you're right, Darren. You cannot have good without bad, folks. It is not always. I'll just put it to you this way. When I go to a funeral of a young person or somebody's child, I don't care how old that child was, if they die before mom and daddy, I do not say your child is an angel now. Or God took your baby because he needed them in heaven. Because ain't none of that true. None of that is in the Bible. I never say that. I tell them I'm sorry for their loss. And thank God we serve a father who could welcome their child into heaven, especially if I know that they're sorry, that they're saved. Yeah, Hosanna, I'm very sorry for your loss. I truly am, friend. But just know this, children are blameless and innocent, and she'll be in heaven when you get there, sweetheart. Yeah, I'm telling you guys now, things are going to happen and they're not going to be pretty. You pray, you trust God, you listen to the Holy Spirit. But this is talking about a huge economic crash that we started in 2007. And tell me you don't feel it in the atmosphere when you're looking at the finances of this country. With what Doge is finding, they've been sending money out, all money laundering. We're in so much debt. Trump is trying his very best to get a handle on this to slow it down. He's trying to charge so much on tariffs to slow the imports in so that American, or the exports in, so that American businesses can begin to rebuild so you have a job when this hits. If you've got money in pensions and money in stock market, I'm not an economist, but I keep telling everybody, what the heck if they'd have my retirement? You know what you should be investing in? Land. Just saying. It always holds its value, folks. All the way to the end. It's going to hold its value. There was something I wanted to show you guys, and then I have to go. I'm feeling really nauseated. I just wanted to show y'all this because I don't think enough people are kind of understanding what they're seeing right now, what you're feeling. You absolutely need to pray. You need to pray for Trump. You need to understand that our country is it's in a weird place in history, guys. I bet if you'd have gone back and talked to the people who lived through the Great Depression and all of that stuff, they would have said, yep, there were warning signs and we ignored them. We ignored them, but there were people who didn't ignore them. There were people who made sure all their mortgage, everything was paid off. There were people who had money stuffed in their mattresses, even though money became irrelevant for a bit. There were people who had food under their beds. And up until the day they died, they never forgot what hunger was like. None of us have ever known true hunger. No, nope. There's not a person in America that's ever known true hunger. Not in this country. Yes, Leslie, we do. We had to think outside of the box. I am not a huge prepper, and I'll tell you guys why. Prepper in the sense of I got, rooms full of stuff. Because how can you keep it safe? A lot of people have great prepping skills, but they don't have true survival skills. You don't be safe, Leslie. I know who you're talking about. Be very, very safe. You have to remember that Americans have become very lazy. What do we do if we see anything? Yep, I need the police. What happens if this goes down? I'm just asking, guys. I think the Deagel report is real. I did some research on John Deagel, the man that did the report. It's solid. You need to go watch my other video on it. I'm too sick to hand feed you right now, friends. But I am very worried that a lot of people just keep their head in the ground, in the sand. I have playlists. Go to my home page, folks. Somebody's asking me a question about where are my other videos. It's not hard to find. Type in Starkey Farmstead in your Google bar. This pops up. Let me turn the light down a little bit more. This pops up. Okay? Well, it depends on what you're on. It says playlist right there in that corner. There are playlists here. Whoop. Thousands of videos. I'm not going to remake them. Nope. They're there. They're there. I will teach you how to start a garden with $0. I'll teach you how to make your own fertilizer. I'll teach you to make your own pest deterrents. I will teach you how to mulch. I will teach you how to grow food, prepare medicines, how to grow rabbits and chickens, and feed those animals without bagged food. I essentially will show you how to survive what's coming. You can go watch them and you can learn, or become afraid. Do you know why people are becoming afraid? Because you aren't doing anything to prepare for what's coming. You're stuck. It's like you're in this weird stasis, right? God's telling you, we're telling you, you're stuck right here. You won't do anything. And because you won't do anything, you've gotten stuck. That's why fear kills people, makes you freeze. Yeah. People who have been in accidents and stuff, and they just freeze. You're watching the movie. That's a good example. You're watching the movie, and like the guy, like we all know the guy has a gun, and we're like, run, run. And the person just freeze, and the guy draws the gun. And you're like, oh my God, are you so stupid? Like, we told you to run. We told you he had a gun. Like, we know, right? Because we're fussing at the TV. Guys, I'm telling you, the economy is in serious trouble. Why do you think Trump had to get an outside group of people to come in and try to save what he can? He's not doing Doge to be ugly to the Democrats or starve the children in Africa. He's trying to see what's actually left and if it's even salvageable. Because I know people used to love to say this. He bankrupted 3 companies. Well, thank God. Because not only did he bankrupt them suckers, but he built them back from nothing. So we got somebody in the office who knows how to run a business, because this country is bankrupted. They have sent our money out of the country and they have held it. China has held on to it. Russia has held on to it. And so they had to print more, steady devaluing the dollar. And Kaylee, I'm going to tell you guys, you can have a plan to go off grid. A lot of us have elderly parents. We have animals. We have children in our communities. We're going to refuse to leave. Let me tell you what you need to do. You're right, Leslie. When they're screaming and crying on TV, it's really bad. So you need to create groups. Like I told you, me and Leslie are going to start this sometime in February. I'm sick, guys. I can only do so much. Leslie has been under the weather. Things have been happening. We're getting attacked. Why? Because we're trying to help you guys. So at some point, you're going to have to help yourself, friends. Start preparing. I don't have more than 3 months worth of food. Because if it's going on for more than 3 months, I'll be pillaging everybody else's stores, if you understand what I'm saying. Because Sam will survive it. People get mad. I had somebody one day say, oh my God, did you just say you cleaned a rabbit? I'm unsubscribing. Bye, Felicia. Because baby, when you're hungry, I'm not killing and skinning those animals for you. But I'll be nice enough to teach you how to do it for yourself. I'm just saying, folks. I love y'all. Only thing I want is for everybody on this channel to survive. But if you can't get in the muck with me, if you can't get your hands dirty, I'll let you starve. Because I won't feel guilty for doing what God told me I could, which is be provided for and have more than enough. Okay? I love you guys. I am very sick. I'm going to bed. I'll link all this into the description of the video. Do your own research. Then pray and ask God what to do. Don't ask me or any social media influencer what you should do. We are not God. You ask God what to do. I'll give you some examples of what you could do. Somebody else will give you examples of what they think you should do. And maybe none of it's going to fit what you need to be doing. That's between you and God. There's another problem with this country. We're lazy. We don't know how to pray. So humble yourself, get on your knees, apologize for all the crap you've been doing that's wrong, and then say, God, I need your help. Holy Spirit, tell me how to protect my family. and I'll do whatever it is you tell me, and then do it. I love you guys. Talk to you later.